Hey guys, GWS here, and guess what? David is packing more bullshit again. I'm gonna make this a series. It's official. I've been him hauling on this, but we've done, secular bullshit for long enough. Like, whatever your opinion on Kyle Kalinske is what it's gonna be, because, quite frankly, here's the next rising voice of the progressive movement. Okay, so what are we going to open this up with? Well, how about we just do a little bit of a summary of Mr. Packing Bullshit's video history. So as you can see, let's look at some of these titles and let's look at these thumbnails. As you can see, just a lot of negativity. First of all, that's the first thing you'll notice. And then the second thing you'll notice is, like, look at all the Russia stuff. Like, see, it's like he does probably 2 to 3 Russia stuff things per day. Like, here's one on this. Collusion um, is a crime. And then there's, actually, strangely, there's not one there. Okay, so people don't like use it. End of the NRA. Okay, so Trump admits to trying to collude. And then there's the enemy of the people nonsense. And then here's some of his interviews. And then here's one about Carter Page that deals with Russia. Um, so as you can see, there's a lot of stuff. Just a lot of negativity in general, too. That's, I think, the biggest thing. But as you can see, like, so much about Russia, so much pushback. Basically, here's the thing about packing bullshit here, is he is part of the anti-Trump movement within the Democratic Party. And see, this is the thing, and this is the big problem. Um, and you're about to see it. In fact, let's look at this. Um, let's preface this by looking at the impact that all the negativity has. Now, keep in mind, this isn't just packing bullshit here. This is the entire mainstream media that he is going along with that is negative Trump, Trump, Trump. All this negativity, basically throwing crap at a wall and hoping that it sticks, right? So let's look at the impact of that. Like, as the investigation, the quote unquote investigation, I should say, more like a witch hunt. But let's see how it's impacted the American people's feelings on Trump. Well, will you look at this? Let's see. All right, let's look at the data here. Now, this is his entire presidency right here. And as you can see, he had a decline in approval, and especially an increase in disapproval. That kind of peaked right about here, right about the end of 2017. But then, like, ever since, and what was the big thing of December 2017? It was the big tax bill that was passed, right? It was the tax bill. It was the yearly GDP figures. Um, it was before deregulation took an impact. And so what's happened to his approval rating? Well, as you can see, like, it kind of goes up in a stepladder fashion. Like, see, you have this abyss right here, but then you have it going back up, which is about probably, I'd say this whole thing right here is a trend. Um, let's actually put that back. We don't want to keep it here. Okay, so let's go max. So from about here to here is a trend, right? Or maybe you can even kind of go back to here, I guess, because it's like, if you, like, basically this is his benefit of the doubt stuff. People, the first year he had a lot of rough times, but As you can see, like, he has not had a significant change in approval rating at all, by any measure, since about June the 14th. We're going on 2 months of basically a static approval. So as you can see, this is David Pakman's representation. Like all the way down here, this is not even a week. Like just constant negative videos on Donald Trump. In fact, I'm not even sure he has anything positive to say. And yet Trump, after having a disastrous first year in terms of approval, has gone up considerably. And as you can see, this is even going to improve, at least in the short term. I don't know how this is going to be in the long term. But a lot of these previous polls from the 25th and the 22nd, well, this is 45. Well, you got two 41s here. Now let's look at some of the other data. And, well, it's all up here, I guess. I know it used to be down there too. But the important thing to remember is this is going to go up, at least in the short term, because you have 45, 44, 47, and then you have a 41 here. That's 8-5. I guess you could count that. Now, this poll ended on the 2nd of August, so basically, if you average all this out, this will be at about 44% approval, which will put him significantly above here. Now, that's assuming that even a neutral poll, like if something comes out with 44, because a lot of these, well, Rasmussen is good for Trump. Reuters, excuse me, and YouGov, they're kind of neutral, usually neutral. Reuters might be slightly left, but and then you got Gallup here, which is slightly to the left normally. If you get something like a Q poll that comes out, that might balance things out a little bit. And you probably will get the Q poll coming out pretty soon. I'm not sure what intervals they release, but they're very left wing. And we can even look at the last Q poll. Yeah, the last one ended on the 23rd, so they're probably going to be coming out with another poll very soon. And so here's my point, though. My point is, like, the negative stuff, the anti-Trump, that's not where Americans are at. There's a lot of things that people get angry at Trump for. Like the immigration thing, I don't think people... There was a lot of mixed feelings, like, because people are heavily torn. Like, they don't want the separations, and they're right. Because, people, when you ask people a question and you don't really give them context, people are going to vote with their hearts. And see, that's the big thing, a lot of the big thing with these progressive policies. And see, voting with your hearts, you got to think, what does that impact? Well, people get very angry when Trump talks about immigrants or talks about our allies in a negative light. Like, if you're not into politics, like, most people aren't into politics, so when they hear this stuff, like, at face value, I can 100% understand where they're coming from. Even as someone who's conservative, but who is into politics, I can understand where they're coming from, because, I talk to people who don't even care about politics, and then they'll see this in the news, and they'll be like, that's not really right. But on the same token, you have Democrats who are just very, very mean spirited, and that is acting as any counterbalance. Like people don't like negativity for the sake of it. Like people will stand up for others, the well-being of others, and people have lots and lots of empathy. You know, and that's perfectly fine. That's what you want. But where people are not at is just like anti-Trump just for the sake of it. Everything Trump does is bad by definition. Or even yeah, people think most of what Trump does is bad. Like the stuff with Stormy Daniels, that's does not reflect well on Trump with the people because, as I said, people vote with their heart. So it's like when they say, Trump's cheating on Melania, they're thinking, poor Melania, and I'm not going to defend Trump for that. And it's like when people see Russia, on one hand, people think, are thinking to themselves like, you know, yeah, it's a little bit concerning, but what does this have to do with my life? Or what does this have to do with improving the country? And see, that's why you don't see a response to the Russia stuff. Um, yeah, people generally support, like, stuff being investigated. People want information. That's the biggest thing. But what people, don't really care about is, like, how much Russia meddled or, any of that, unless they're already heavily politically involved and they're a Democrat. It does not influence people's votes. It does not influence their approval. And that's the big thing. It's like, here is the thing. If Democrat opposition to Trump were based on some ideology soundly rooted in the desires of the American people, as well as with economic, scientific evidence, um, and they could present a good case to people, people like me would be open to voting for Democrats. You know, Personally, I voted for Democrats, and I've voted for more Democrats than Republicans in the past. But just the constant, just droning on negativity. Every single positive thing has this negative spin. And it's like, okay, the economy's improving. You have 4.1% growth. Okay, it's true. Maybe wages are not going up immediately. But see, even normal people understand that the economy is basically an aggregate. It's an aggregate over a certain period of time where if you have sustained growth and you have more business investment and you have expansion, you will see wages go up, and people understand this. But even in the short term, like if more people are working, just the mere idea of working, like if more people are working, people who've never worked entering the workforce, disabled people trying to find work, that's that is better than any government program can be. Just merely having that. But then again, it's like I agree. Like, yeah, wages should be going up, but to deny that 4.1% for a quarter is good, considering that Trump has only had one quarter below 2% so far. That was the first quarter of last year. Like, we had 1.8% growth in the first quarter, and then every other quarter has been over 2%. That's not been done. That was not done once under Obama, where you had four straight quarters above 2%. Yeah, Obama had individual quarters that were good. But was that the aggregate? No, it wasn't. Obama's total average was less than 2%. It was like 1.8%. It's the worst average that a president has had in history. It's the most years that we've ever had under 4% growth in history. And see, here's the thing, and this is the big thing that gets me about Democrats and about the negativity is that we're talking about 4%. 4% is said to be impossible. We're too developed. We can't do it anymore. And it's just so strange that, like China, a nation that's just about the size of our nation, can grow at 7-8%. And it's like, that's what you want. And yes, we can grow at that rate. Like, look at how many cities over 1 million people China has. They have a ton, and there is so much more that we can do. Like, we have so much more room for growth. We just have to welcome that growth. But anyhow, kind of getting off the subject, being a little bit philosophical. But the bottom line is Mr. Packing Bullshit's negativity apparently is not producing results. And here's the thing, like Mr. Bullshit, Packing Bullshit here, claims that he is about, the data and evidence and facts and all this. But yet, when his messaging and the messaging of the media that he is parroting is not working and it's producing this. See, here's the thing. Imagine this is an impeachment trial. This is what Republicans are looking at right here. Like, not even just individual polls, like polls of polls, averages of polls. I'm not sure what HuffPost is. Or 538. They probably have a different combination of polls. But this is RCP, and RCP was actually, I believe, the closest in the election in terms of averages. But this is what Republicans are going to look at when dealing with impeachment. This is even what Democrats are going to look at. Like, if they take the House, that's what they're going to look at. And it's like, if your messaging is not working, then that is basically a huge problem. Like, you have to use evidence-based rhetoric. If you're trying to make a case to people, you got to use that. And Packing Bullshit here is not using that. Anyhow, thanks for listening, guys, and God bless.